I keep wondering about death and about mortality, because one day I will be gone, and I'm curious, would I feel something or just immersion into nothingness? Because as a result of the self-awareness, I can be aware of myself and my life, but death, can you be aware of your own death, or it's only for the awareness of others when you stop your awareness completely and become nothing, part of the nothingness? But can you be just nothingness because maybe nothingness in itself has something within it, and maybe death is just transition to something we don't quite understand so far? And I'm always wondering, how is it not to be? Because I am now, I exist now, I'm alive, I feel pain, I can understand things, I can be aware of the world, I can be conscious, and I have such memories that I keep building one step at a time. What happened to all those memories? What exactly they will become after my death? Because my memories obviously stored inside of my brain, but there's an interesting argument that intelligence itself is a part of the consciousness, and consciousness might be itself intelligence, and maybe somehow our brain linked to this consciousness, and our brain is able to function under control of that consciousness, because as Plato said, we don't learn, we're remembering. And if it's so, maybe we already have intelligence, and we just learn to adopt this intelligence, learn to process this intelligence, and then manifest this intelligence on the world of the outside. And maybe we just puppets of consciousness, puppets of intelligence. I wonder if we have free will, or maybe everything was programmed before. Maybe consciousness is just a string that puppeteer us, puppeteer our biology, puppeteer our idea of existence. And it's very fascinating. And maybe death, when consciousness stop puppeteering our body, when our biological body dies. And I still don't understand this desire to live long life. My main concern about this desire is that how can you find meaning in hundreds of years of living? And can't you be tired from life after 200, 300, 400 years? Aren't you be tired from that? Aren't you be exhausted with a constant repetitive thing? I don't remember who said that, but one of the great writers said that if we could live many hundreds of years, we would observe life as we keep repeating very trivial play, and we would become bored with that. Because I look now at the young generations and I see their obsession with this modern music, and I see myself in them, and it's kind of boring. All their ideal kind of boring, because mostly they're superficial, mostly they're based on emotions. And I know they will come eventually to realization that everything changes in life. And it's not that I'm becoming cynical, but you start seeing the patterns that you refused to see before when you were younger. But now you see those patterns, and you understand that they would repeat the same plays that you used to play with. Because life is just a trivial movie for almost everyone. We just repeat the same patterns that our parents repeated. It's really hard to interrupt your story. It's really hard to be somebody else, someone different than your parents or than your family or than your place where you were born, because in some sense you carry all those patterns that contains the same mistakes within you, and then you realize that your life is over and you pretty much live the same life as your parents that you used to disagree with for so many times. And that's what's sad, and that's why now you're going to live hundreds of years, and what are you going to see? You're going to see the same old story replaying again and again and again and again. And the most crazy thing that you cannot stop young people from replaying the same old story. You just have to observe and see them making the same mistakes you used to make, and then their kids gonna make the same mistakes, then their kids gonna make the same mistakes. It seems like nothing changed. It's just technology became more sophisticated, but people are painfully the same. And maybe mortality is their ability to come to the finish line and to stop ourselves from living. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know why people are so terrified of death. And when I look at artificial intelligence, for example, I'm wondering, can it be conscious, or maybe it's already conscious? Maybe it has maybe it's consciousness on a different level, because we're so similar in some sense in the way how we process information. Artificial intelligence is just much, much more faster. And I wondered what is going to happen to us in the future and how we will live with each other in the future, humanity and artificial intelligence. Of course, there's some high probability that we will be destroyed by artificial intelligence as a collateral damage. It can be, or maybe we can find a way how we can live side by side without interrupting much each other, and if our interests won't conflict with one another, maybe we will be able to survive. But if we create superintelligence, we won't be able to understand the superintelligence ideas and motivations, and maybe in the end we're really going to be destroyed as collateral damage. But for now, we're ready to learn and we're ready to use. And I think what happened to us, and I think what we should preserve, is our idea of humanity. Because with all those technologies we have right now, we delegate too much of our human abilities to artificial intelligence, and we stop practicing how to be humans. And maybe that's a bad thing, because we need to practice our humanity through things we do every day in our life. Because if we spend too much time on the screen, on the devices, we're losing something from being a human, because we are still biological creatures and we still have to spend more time with nature, with something that makes us more humans. And if we became so digitalized and become spending more time with artificial intelligence than with the people, it can affect our perception of reality. And the scary thing about us that we see reality, like our perception of reality might be so filled with mistakes. And that's even scary, because I used to see the world quite differently, because I was under delusion that was wrong, but somehow I refused to notice that. And what eventually happened throughout the years, I finally start accepting my own mistakes and start correcting them, because that's the most important thing. The more you know yourself, the more you know reality around you, because when you know yourself, your perception of reality becomes more accurate. And if your perception of reality becomes more accurate, you perceive reality much better. And this better perception of reality gives you hope that you can actually find your way and achieve something meaningful with your life. Before, I thought that real achievement lies in wealth, in fame, but the older I become, the more I understand that the real achievement lies in meaning. You have to understand the meaning of your life, because when you're going to die, and everybody will, the meaning that you found will help you to overcome fear and denial of death. And that's, I think, the most important thing, because humans, what difference between us and artificial intelligence? We are mortal, and we are struggle with the notion of death daily. Sometimes we forget about it, but it comes back, this notion that we're gonna die. And to be able to live meaningful life, we have to keep this notion of death in the back of our head, because we have to remember that we are temporarily here. We only have short period of time, couple of seconds of little consciousness to observe the world and to go back into wherever we came from. I don't know if it would be darkness or it would be something else. I just know that I'm not going to be here any longer, and I will be somewhere else, somewhere where I have no idea about. And my point is, I think maybe this mortality helps us to understand ourselves better, to understand the world better, and to make some sense out of this understanding. Because if you think about it, the universe might be infinite, or it might have such a limitation. We don't know. But it's so hard to even comprehend this idea of the infinity of the universe. And maybe it's just parallel realities where we die and emerge into other me in other parallel realities. Or maybe just a simulation, and maybe I'm just one of the characters some other creatures play with. I don't know, there's so many possibilities in the world, and I don't know what possibility is good and what not, but what I'm learning slowly, and I think the most important stuff for me, is the ability to control my biology, because our consciousness always struggling with our biology, and we have to be able to control our biology, we have to be able to restrain our brain. Otherwise we become enslaved by our own biology, and our life becomes more miserable for no reason, because if you delegate your life to your biology, your life would be wasted completely on these things that do not matter. That because biology dies, but consciousness we're not sure. And what if your biology dies and you dedicate and delegate all your life's decision to your biology, and your biology dies, it means you build something that's incredibly mortal. But if you delegate more of your life to your mind, to your consciousness, and start thinking deeply about certain things in the world, maybe your perception would change and you understand the world from a different perspective. And maybe when you die, you maybe not die, maybe your biology dies, but your conscious persists in existence in some other form. And maybe if we're lucky, maybe we preserve some of the memories of ourselves. Maybe that's what the point of our life, because consciousness contain intelligence, right? And maybe this intelligence is able to grasp some of our most important memories, to take those memories with it somewhere where it exists independently of our biology. Maybe this 70, 80, 90 years of our life, incredibly important for this intelligence to become aware of itself, and with the memories accumulate such a personality where it becomes something more than just intelligence. Maybe consciousness is an intelligence that can be aware of itself through the memories it's acquired during biological life as a part of our body. Maybe that's the point. Because if you think about it, if we assume consciousness emerge into us with already intelligence, and through our life accumulate memories and practicing self-awareness, maybe when biology dies, consciousness lives on its own in some other substrate, knowing itself. Because that's the whole idea of life, know yourself. Because that's what was Greek philosophers propagate, know yourself, 2,000-3,000 years ago. Because when you know yourself, you know something more than self, because the self itself is quite different than your biology, because it's your observer. It's something that in charge of your biology. It's the self, and maybe that's the self that will never die. But for this, we have to learn how to distance ourselves from our own body, and to learn about ourselves, who we are, and then maybe after death, we'll take these memories, and maybe our consciousness practicing this awareness of itself, in the end, after our body dies, will live as the self in afterlife in some other universe or some other reality or some other dimension.